Well, it is Pride Month, and as every year, it seems to be ramping up more and more. We're seeing that more and more people are proud of being absolutely disgusting and completely illogical. This is now what June's all about, and you know what? These people who actually have mental disabilities, in most cases, are being praised and lauded by almost every company in America. As long as their advertisements praising the LGBT community are not seen in other countries where LGBTQ things are not so popular. Anyway, so that's a little behind the story. You can look into that. But the point is that we're gonna take some time this month and deal with some of these issues. And today we want to review the new film out by Matt Walsh at the Daily Wire called "What Is a Woman." We're going to play you a few clips from the film in the episode today, but you got to go watch the whole thing, all right? Because you're really just not going to fully appreciate it. But I tell you what, after you see these clips, you are going to want to watch the rest. If this is your first time joining us, I'm Pastor Josh Barnes. This is my brother, Jonathan Barnes. And this is the show where we're unashamed to look at political, social, cultural, and even theological issues from a biblical worldview. We do that because Jesus really did die on the cross. He rose from the dead. And that proves that the Bible's true because Jesus said the Bible's true. And that means we can't be right about issues if we disagree with the Bible. Now, if you're a Christian, it should be common sense. But 60% of Democrat voters claim to be Christians and clearly don't understand what the Bible says about issues. So we need to make sure that that's the case. If you're not a Christian, we want you to hang out, check out some of our videos on YouTube where we actually go through some of the skeptics' concerns about Christianity, and we actually answer a lot of those things. And leave a comment in one of our videos, and we'll be happy to respond to it. Anyway, we want to talk about this movie, What is a Woman? We reviewed the book that Matt Walsh came out with, Johnny the Walrus, and it received rave reviews from both Jonathan and I. Jonathan, I'm going to real quick play the trailer, the short trailer for this movie. Actually, we've both seen the whole movie now, but we're going to review it. Before we do that, let me just play the trailer so that people are up to speed on what this movie is about.
I have traveled all over the world for the past year asking one simple question. What is a woman? What is a woman?
What is it?
What is it?
I don't know.
People are laughing. Is that a dumb question? I've been asking everybody this, and almost nobody can answer it.
What is a woman?
What is a woman?
That's a great question.
If one person could tell me what a woman is. Congressman, thank you for being here.
I think this interview is over. Let's turn off the cameras.
I just wanted to know, what is a woman?
And you're not going to find out.
It's not a complicated question.
And that was the trailer. It is now out. You can go to the Daily Wire, and you can go ahead and become a subscriber. I became a subscriber to the Daily Wire just to watch this film, and I do not regret it. It was quite a excellent choice on my part. Of all the many very good choices I've made in my life, that was one of them. Jonathan, what are your thoughts, just your initial thoughts on the film before we get into a few of the details here?
Well, you made a good choice, and you're in good company, because actually the day of the release, June 1st, for What is a Woman, broke all the records by a lot for subscriberships for the Daily Wire. There's a ton of people that just signed up for that movie, and I don't think they were disappointed. I went into it thinking, I'm a Matt Walsh fan, SBG for life, member of the Sweet Baby Gang. Shout out to my sweet daddy Walsh. However, and I know that makes you super uncomfortable, which is a bonus.
It does.
It's a bonus. However, I went into it thinking, as a movie, how's it gonna land? I'm sure I'm gonna agree with him on most of these things, but how's it gonna work? Documentary style, not really what I go for. Dude, I love this movie. It was amazing. The way that it was presented, just funny, but serious. Just throughout the movie, it kind of keeps you very engaged in it, and I loved it. I loved it from beginning to end.
Yeah, I have to say, I like a good documentary every now and then, just, for educational purposes. But I usually get to the end of a documentary and I'm like, okay, let's wrap this up. We're done. Okay, you could have probably given me all this information in about half an hour. You've stretched it on for an hour and a half or 2 hours or more. And great, wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate the work. I'm done. But this was a documentary that just really kept you interested. It had comedy. It was fun. It was, it hit home so well. He targeted the actual issue. He made it so clear and so obvious that you'd have to be. So throughout the film, he pretends as if he's just a complete idiot and cannot figure this out. And even pretending as if he's a complete idiot and cannot figure out what a woman is. Asking intelligent, quote unquote, intelligent people who are on the left about this, pretending to be a complete idiot. He completely confounds these people. And I'm actually going to show you, we're going to show you one of those interviews here, probably the most telling interview from this. Although it's hard to put a superlative on any of the interviews because all of these were absolutely eye-opening, excellent interviews. He interviewed people on both sides, but he spent a lot of time interviewing people who are in colleges and academia and scientists, doctors, who are for the LGBTQ, the trans agenda, and just asking simple questions and pretending to be an idiot, he just made them look completely stupid. And that just makes me happy.
Yeah. So it was interesting to me how these people, like you said, they're in the gender ideology field, which, just kind of a weird term in and of itself. But they got so upset when he would ask them what they did. It wasn't even, him really pushing back. He would just say, so you're giving these medicines to children. Did you know that these are so you're giving chemical castration basically to, and they would just get so upset, and there was no saying no to it. They knew the answer was yes. They couldn't actually bring themselves to that. They would just get upset. It was, I mean, if you want to win a conversation, look at what Matt Walsh did in this movie. He wins every single one.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? He shows that this is not a conversation that is difficult. You don't need to be an incredibly intelligent person to say, you're wrong. I don't care if you say you're a woman. If you have male biology, you're wrong. Right? You are a male. I don't really care about the rest. And he really, really does that well. This is an interview that he did with a college professor who, and I'm not sure which college. I think he may have mentioned it in the film, but you'll have to go watch the film to find out. That's the thing. You'll have to go watch the film to find out. But this guy is a social studies professor who's big on the pro-trans agenda and all these sort of things. And Matt Walsh asked him, is there a difference between gender and sex? And of course, the transgender crowd is going to say, well, they're kind of saying yes and no. So originally when the whole transgender message came out, it was there's a difference between gender and sex. And gender is a social construct and sex is biology. And so I can say that I'm a woman and gender-wise, even if my biology is a man, right? So that was the original idea of the transgender, that was the original message. But now it's sort of morphed into this, if, trans women are real women. Like now it's not even that if you say you are a certain gender, you suddenly are that sexually, which biologically, which is just complete nonsense. So he's asking this question, and the guy, I'm skipping this because it would make what we're about to play very long. But the guy has gone on for just a very long time trying to answer and hasn't really given an answer. And so Matt, we're going to jump in here where Matt Walsh is like, so what's the answer to this? And I want to get to a point that we'll see in a moment where this professor is actually going to say that Matt Walsh asking for truth, just asking for what the truth is in this matter, is transphobic, and he's uncomfortable with the word truth. That's really telling. We'll get to there. But Jonathan, just go ahead and shout out whenever you want me to stop it, if there's something you wanted to jump in and say.
Yeah, I mean, this entire interview was peak comedy. I was rolling. It was just great. This guy's mannerisms, they just you got to see it. I mean, there's nothing else to say about that. You just got to see it.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
So are gender and sex two different things, or?
Well, I think that they both are and they aren't. I'm comfortable saying that gender and sex are two different constructs, but they're deeply intertwined with each other.
We're talking about gender and sex, and there's a lot of controversies there. If we're talking about a trans woman has all of the male physical characteristics, so would that not be a male then? Couldn't we plainly say this person is a male?
Well, I guess it's like, why are you asking the question? I think I want to understand sort of why that's so important. So if someone tells
Just
you...
to sort of understand reality, you know?
Well, I mean, I think when someone tells you who they are, you should believe them. So if a person says that they're a woman or they're a man, then that's them telling you their gender is.
Like, let's just stop right there. No. Why should I accept everything anybody else says about themselves? I mean, Matt Walsh made a really good point when he went on the what was the show?
Dr. Phil show.
Dr. Phil show. He said, listen, my preferred adjectives are handsome and brilliant, I think. And he said, you have to call me a handsome and brilliant. Well, that's outrageous. No one has to think of Matt Walsh as handsome and brilliant just because he demands it. And nobody has to think of me as a woman just because I, as a man, say I'm a woman, right? Like that's completely nonsense. And I hate actually using myself as an example there because I don't say that about myself. But you understand, like, no, we don't have to accept everything everybody says about themselves.
Right. And I hate the premise. He says, I think if someone says something about themselves, basically what they are, then you should believe them. But later on, he's also going to concede the point. Yes, we've well established that people can lie. So apply that logic here. You wouldn't do this in any other facet of life. If somebody robs a bank and they have the bag of money that says bank money in their hands and they say, no, I didn't rob the bank, are you just going to believe them? No, of course not. The reality exists. And when the evidence is right there in front of you that this is obviously a man or obviously a woman and they're claiming to be something else, then you can disbelieve them regardless of what they say. Now there's some people are, kind of borderline, you can't really tell, but still a little bit of skepticism at the front is not a bad thing. We don't just believe people,
especially when the appearance seems to suggest otherwise, right? So if somebody comes up to me and says, I'm a woman, and they look like a woman, they sound like a woman, they act like a woman, I say, oh, okay, I believe you. But if someone comes up to me and says, I'm a woman, they sound like a man, they look like a man, they dress like a man, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to hold my opinion about that. I'm not really sure if I believe that, right? Because that's what evidential people are. And by the way, as Christian people, truth and evidence should be very important to us. This is how we prove Christianity. We look at the truth. We look at the evidence. We are evidential people. We believe in Jesus, who is the way, the truth, and the life, right? He is, the embodiment of truth. All of Scripture is about what is true, not what is just made up. And so what are we doing with Scripture when we're saying, okay, well, we're going to just say that's fine to people who just are denying reality? And this is why Matt Walsh is about to ask about reality. And I think this is going to be... I think this is where the interview gets extremely interesting.
I'm not so sure what social interactions would have to do with maleness or femaleness that would.
Well, I'm not even talking about social context. I'm just trying to start by getting to the truth.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really uncomfortable with that language of like getting to the truth. Again, in social life.
Why is that uncomfortable?
Because it sounds actually deeply transphobic to me. And if you keep probing, we're going to stop the interview.
This is funny because almost everybody that disagreed with Matt that he interviewed said that they were going to end the interview. They or at least threatened to. At least 3 or 4 of them, I think. And you see in one of the trailers, I'm not sure if it was in the trailer we just played, but I think it was, where the senator gets up and walks out. And it's so funny. Matt is asking simple questions like, you're a gender studies guy, what is a woman? And they can't answer it, and they get mad and say, we're going to walk out of the interview. It's really telling.
In the case of the congressman, I saw that in the trailer initially before I saw the movie, and I was kind of, when I'm watching the movie, I was saying, I wonder what he says to make this guy walk out. It's crazy because Matt really doesn't say anything. He asked a question initially, and the congressman tries to answer it, but he just trips over his words. He can't speak properly. He pauses for long periods of time, and then he just kind of says, "Oh, this interview's done." Like he it's like he was working it in his head, and he couldn't wrap his brain around it, and so he just gave up, and it was pretty priceless. But that's really,
which is funny because he's a congressman who fights for legislation to allow transgender people to use the opposite bathroom, for men to use a woman's bathroom. He fights for legislation for this, but when he's asked a question, do you really think that's a good idea? He stumbles over his words and it doesn't have an answer. So why are you fighting for legislation you don't believe in, or you do believe in, you don't want people to know about?
Right. He tries to kind of defend it at the front of it, but then he kind of just says, "Well, why are you even asking this?" And then he just kind of he gets very defensive. But Matt Walsh goes to the people that are at the forefront of this industry. He goes to the college professor. He goes to the gender ideology. The people who are doing the surgeries, the people who are prescribing the medications, the people who are teaching this. They're at the cutting edge, so to speak, of this movement. He doesn't go to the people who just don't know anything about it. Yeah. He goes to the ones who should have the answers, and without fail, they just don't. They just don't. There's no answer to this. Yeah, it doesn't exist.
All right, let's let this roll for just a little bit to try to get through. I want to get to the end because he's getting uncomfortable that Matt Walsh is asking for just the reality of the situation.
Probe about what the truth is?
You keep invoking the word truth, which is condescending and rude. I'm saying to you...
How is the word truth condescending and rude?
Why don't you tell me what your truth is, and you're walking on 30 seconds more of thin ice before I get up.
Now that's funny. Like, he's threatening Matt. Like, you had better stop asking me these questions. You had better start towing the line, or else I'm going to get up and leave. I'm going to make the situation very awkward for you. You really want me to make it awkward? This is how transgenders, this is how the whole argument, the LGBTQ plus, convince people to shut up and stop using their brain. They say, well, I'm going to make things very awkward, and you're going to be very offensive to me. Do you really want me to be offended by you? You better stop talking this way. And Matt Walsh is like, no. Like, you're offending me by saying the truth doesn't exist.
Matt Walsh is one of the only people in the world that can just go in there and just not care. He will ask the question. He'll sit there calmly and just, he picks it apart logically, which is nice. He doesn't just let you get away with stuff. When he says, well, the truth, that's just offensive. Most people would move off of that. Matt goes, well, what do you mean? Why is the truth? Why is that offensive? Why is that a problem to you? We're talking about truth. Why is that an issue? And he continues to push it because he's asking for an answer, and he's not getting it because it doesn't exist.
What my truth is? Well, I don't think I really have a truth. I think that there's just the truth, like the reality. And so we should begin by trying to figure out what the reality is.
And why are you concerned with when someone else tells you that they're a man, or even if they use the word male, why are you concerned with not believing them?
Well, you keep bringing it back to, how do you respond in a social situation? But,
that's what I do. I'm a social scientist.
Well, right, but we're in a university. This is a place of understanding truth, isn't it? Or
Absolutely. We
But the
pursue
truth-
truth, and I'm
So-
a social scientist, and that's what I
But
do.
you just said the truth is transphobic.
That you would say that if you're saying the truth is that I get to say you're not a man, show me your genitalia, that's transphobic.
No, I don't want to see anybody's genitalia. I just mean some.
I don't want to see anybody's genitalia.
Yes, because everybody who doesn't subscribe to transgender ideology immediately asks you to drop your pants because I want you to prove who you are. Come on, you've got to be kidding me.
Matt's like, no, I don't want to see it.
No, please, I beg of you, do not do this to me right now. Yeah.
One can make a statement about themselves that could be untrue. Like, for example, if I were to say that I'm a black man, would you accept that, or would you be skeptical?
Are you black? Are you African American? Are you biracial?
Right now, he's being skeptical, so the answer is I would be skeptical.
I don't think so.
Yeah, well, you don't look that, and I don't think it doesn't sound like that's a genuine statement of who you are.
Okay, so that's my point. I could make a statement about who I am that's incorrect.
Of course, I think it's well established that human beings can lie, yes.
There it is.
Or not even lie. I mean, I could just be mistaken.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sure where you're going.
So
You're
here
not
we
sure
go.
where you're going. Come on, this is pretty obvious.
Yeah. So you're saying that when I say something about myself, it might not be true. Whether I'm lying or mistaken, it might not be true.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, that's true. But I don't want you to say that about transgender people. When they say something about themselves, it is true. Why? There's no biology to back it up. And here's where it gets down to the question, what is a woman?
I guess this all comes back, it all comes down to really one question. Especially women, gender and sexuality studies. So what is a woman?
Why do you ask that question?
I just really like to know.
What do you think the answer to that question is?
Who's being condescending?
Well,
now, right?
I'm asking. That's why I came to a college professor who's this is what you do.
Answering with other questions.
What other kinds of answers have you gotten?
3 questions in a row from the guy supposedly answering.
A lot of like this where you're not answering, and I've gotten a lot of that. So
I think it's interesting that you say that some of the people you've interviewed have been reluctant to answer it, and I think that has a lot to do with the questions that preceded it and the way that you've conducted yourself in the interview.
how have I conducted myself?
How do you think you've conducted yourself?
You just really don't want to answer the questions, do you?
I came today very willing and enthusiastic about answering questions about women's and gender sexuality studies, which is
So
the
you
work
wanted
that I do.
you wanted to answer questions about women's studies, and so shouldn't the first answer you should be able to provide is what exactly is a woman?
Well, for me, it's actually a really simple answer, and that's a person who identifies as a woman.
But what are they identifying as?
As a woman.
But what is that?
As a woman,
Do you know what a circular definition is?
This is great.
I do.
It's sort of like what you're doing right now, where a woman is a woman.
Well, because you're seeking what we would call in my field of work an essentialist definition of gender. I think it sounds like you would like me to give you a set of biological or cultural characteristics that are associated with one gender or the other.
I'm not seeking any type of definition. I'm just seeking a definition.
Yeah, and I gave you one.
Okay, so guys, if you are not, after seeing this interview, if you're not like, I have got to go watch the whole video, I don't know what's wrong with you. There's something seriously wrong with you. Like, this is the best entertainment that's been on TV in a millennia. I mean, like, since TV was invented. This guy is saying truth is transphobic. He's getting upset. And then finally when Matt Walsh is like, okay, fine. You're here to answer questions about women's studies. What is a woman? Well, I don't think I should have to answer that. Well, you need to know what a woman is in order to have women's studies. So what's a woman? And he says, well, it's anyone who identifies as a woman, which is you're saying that the word means what the word is, right? It's anyone who identifies as what?
You learned this in grade school. You cannot define the word if you use the word again in the definition. That's not allowed. You have to define it with other words.
And so people know, like, that is the most common definition that he gets. Let me play this real quick. This is the last couple minutes of the film where he plays some of the answers that he gets from these different people. Here we go.
So we're going on this journey. Boys can be girls, girls can be boys, men can be women, women can be men. It makes me wonder, what is a woman?
What is a woman? A woman is someone who claims that as their identity. It could be many things to many people.
I think the question really brings up the fact that it is pretty relative, right? That if you ask women across race, across identities, across class, across culture, you will get a different answer.
Some of it is, based on biology. Some of it is based on hormones. Some of it is based on what you wear and how you present yourself.
A woman is not anything in particular. There's no one particular thing.
There is not one particular thing.
A woman is someone who says that she is a woman and transitions to be a woman.
Who says that she's what? Can you define the word woman without using the word woman?
And it's actually kind of like, it's a curious question, but I...
This guy's amazing. I really like this guy. Professor Mullet.
You see how all of their answers are, a woman is whoever identifies as a woman. But he didn't say who is a woman. He says what is a woman. So he's not saying who gets to be classified as a woman. He's saying what is it that they're classified as when they say I'm a woman. Right? Because they're saying, well, it's anybody who identifies as a woman is classified as a woman. Okay, but what is that thing? What is a woman? And he got no answers from the left on what is a woman. He did get answer from the right. He finally found the right answer, and I won't give that away because that's a great ending to the film. You got to watch the film to find the right answer at the very end. But you know the answer. Jonathan, we got just a few seconds left. What are your closing thoughts here?
Well, so Matt went into this movie with the idea that you ask the question, what is a woman? And the entire argument, the entire transgender ideology, everything that surrounds it, it all just falls apart. It all collapses.
Yeah.
And what is left? What's left after that?
Yeah, absolutely correct. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on Point of View, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to go to thedailywire.com and subscribe and go check out the video. You will not be disappointed.